Hey guys, this is Kendall, and it's time for a new collection update video, a new gaming pickups video. This might be the last one this year, maybe even entirely, I don't know. More on that towards the end. Let's get into it, because I got a good stack of games here. Most of them we're going to run through pretty quickly, because I don't have too much to say. First off, I picked up a couple 3DS games I haven't added to my 3DS collection in a while. I picked up Fire Emblem Fates Birthright. So this was part of a period where Fire Emblem was kind of doing the whole Pokemon thing with like two different versions. So this came out alongside Conquest, and Birthright was always the one that appealed to me more. It was basically you could play through the same conflict on either side. Either you would play as the as part of a family of nobles, or you could play like as part of an adopted family and stuff like that. So this one I think is your blood family. Yeah, it says, will you stand with your blood family, defend the land of your birth against encroaching evil? Whereas Conquest, I think, is more the villain route, I think, where you play with, like, as you're a part of your adopted family and so on. And this is a really interesting period because I still need to pick up the Conquest as well. But there was actually a third version of this called, oh god, I can't remember what it's called right now. Birthright Conquest. I want to say it started with an R, maybe Rebirth, I don't remember. But there was a third version of this that was only available digital. It was paid DLC. If you wanted the full story, you had to buy both Birthright and Conquest, and then get the DLC as well, which again was only digital except for if you bought a special edition combo pack of Birthright and Conquest together, then all three scenarios came together on one 3DS cart. And so I'm definitely interested in checking this out. I haven't touched the Fire Emblem series in a while. I know there's a new one that they're working on right now. I would love to get more into those. I haven't really played Fire Emblem since Three Houses came out. I started Three Houses, never got far into it. Never much messed around with what was it? Echoes? Or Engage. So I'm trying to get as many of these as I can, because I do enjoy the Fire Emblem games. I just haven't gotten much chance to play them. A game I had completely forgotten even existed on the 3DS, Hyrule Warriors Legends. So this is the 3DS version of Hyrule Warriors. It has some different content from the Wii U version, which was the original. So I don't know if there was stuff they took out, or whatever, but I think it includes like the base game as well, and then there's new storylines as well involving Wind Waker and Linkle, which is the female version of Link. Right here on the back cover, you can kind of see her. And so I don't think that those are canon, but I don't know for sure. Definitely interested in trying this out, although I would much rather play the definitive edition on the Switch, because I think that includes all of the Wii U and 3DS version content as well. So definitely interested in checking this out as well. I also picked up a pair of Wii and Wii U games. I got Rayman Origins and Rayman Legends. Probably not going to play these versions. I might play the Wii U version of Rayman Legends, but probably not the Wii version of Rayman Origins, simply because I would much rather play this in HD. And I know that HD versions exist on the 360 and PS3, so I might pick those up and play those at some point. But I am interested in trying these at least, playing these and trying them. Definitely glad to add that to my collection. I also picked up a pair of original Xbox games. I got Half-Life 2, this is the only console port. Well, no, I take that back. It's not the only console port of Half-Life 2, but it was the first console port of Half-Life 2. It's the only standalone console port of Half-Life 2, because all the rest were included in the orange box on the PS3 and 360. So this is, Half-Life 2. I don't know if Episode 1 is on here as well. I doubt it. But again, this is like an exclusive version of Half-Life 2. I would have liked to have had Half-Life 1 and 2 for console on the same platform, but unfortunately Valve didn't do that. The only console version of the original Half-Life is the PS2 version, and like I said, this is the only standalone version of Half-Life 2 on console as well. Definitely glad to add this to my collection, though, as a Half-Life fan. Another game I added was Ninja Gaiden. This is I won't say the original, because the original was an NES game. This was the original of the reboot as a 3D action game, and definitely interested in playing this. Probably going to, I think I have Ninja Gaiden Sigma, which on the PS3, which is like a enhanced port and remake or whatever. Definitely going to have to play through these, because I know Ninja Gaiden 4 is coming out sometime soon, so I need to play through those at some point as well. Other than that, I added a whole bunch of PS1 games that had been on my list to get for a long time and just had never really gotten around to it. And again, we're going to rapid fire through most of these because I don't have too much to say about most of them. So, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. So these are classic games. Probably not going to play these versions. I'll probably pick up the 1 and 2 remake at some point and play those instead. Which I know it's not one for one. It's kind of an amalgamation of both games smashed together and stuff like that. So it's still good to have these, especially as classic as these games are. I have played early Tony Hawk games before. Never really got too much into it because they involve timers, like very short time limits, and I'm not a huge fan of very strict time limits in games. They do have their uses. Rasputin just put out a video not too long ago talking about how useful time limits can be when it meshes with the mechanics and stuff like that. But I'm not a huge fan of them. So still glad to add these to my collection, though. Again, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2. I know Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 also came out on the PS1, although I believe the PS2 version is like the better version to get and play. It was one of those early cross-gen titles. When they first started doing that, where cross-gen still meant like there were significant differences between the last gen and the next gen version of the game. So definitely glad to add those to my collection. Another one I'm glad to add is Twisted Metal 4. I still need to get 2 and 3, and I still need to properly play through the first one as well. But I've enjoyed the Twisted Metal games since Twisted Metal Black and the Twisted Metal reboot back in 2012, which was unbelievably the last Twisted Metal game we got. I haven't watched the show yet. I still need to do that at some point, but I don't have Peacock right now, and I don't see the point of picking up a streaming service, even just for a month, just to watch one show. So maybe in a couple months I'll pick it up and watch the show then, because I've heard good things about it. So definitely glad to add this. I still need to get Twisted Metal 2 and 3. Speaking of which, I also picked up Tekken 2 and Tekken 3. I need to get Tekken 1. They had the original Tekken 1. It was in a long box format, but it was a little bit pricey for me at the time, so I figured I'd go ahead and just get 2 and 3, especially because 3 is the one I think I remember playing back in the arcades. I would never been much of a huge fighting game fan, but there's still great games to play. So definitely glad to add these to my collection as well. I need to get Tekken 1, though, at some point. Another one I'm glad to add is Siphon Filter 2. So I don't have the original Siphon Filter, so I'm probably not going to play this until after I've played that. But this is kind of a spy game, kind of in the vein of, as an early precursor to like Splinter Cell, kind of in the vein of like James Bond, that kind of thing. So it's a first-person shooter spy game type thing. Definitely interested in playing this at some point. You guys know I picked up the PS2, the big PS2 GTA games. Last time around, GTA 3 and San Andreas. I already had Vice City. Well, I also picked up GTA 2, and this will play quite a bit different because this is entirely 2D, top-down. There's a couple other GTA games on the PS1 I need to get as well, including the original Grand Theft Auto. There's also GTA London. Definitely want to play through these, give them at least a shot before GTA 6 comes out. I'm very much interested in playing that game, and I've never actually really played a GTA game. Ooh, they even have an ad in here for GTA 3 on the PS2. So, yeah, coming this fall for PlayStation 2. Quite a bit different of a game compared to GTA 1 and 2. Still glad to add this to my collection. Another one I'm glad to add to my collection, and I can't believe I didn't have physical copies of these games at all yet, is Resident Evil Director's Cut. So this is the pretty much the best version of this game, I believe. I don't know if it has the soundtrack from the DualShock version. Even it supports DualShock, but I don't know if this has the soundtrack from the DualShock version or the original soundtrack, which the composer got in trouble for. So that was why they had to scramble and redo the soundtrack for the DualShock version, which is notoriously bad, including especially the basement theme is the worst version. Still glad to add to this to my collection. I almost picked up Resident Evil 2 as well because they had that, but they didn't have the manual. And I, being a collector, I don't want to pick up an old game like this unless it has the manual. Especially if, the ones that are in single jewel cases like this, where the manual also serves as the front cover. If I pull this out, so this front cover here is the manual. And without it, is the manual in here. And without it, you just see the disc, and that's it. Now, that's not so much of an issue with Resident Evil 2 because it comes in one of these bigger dual disc, multi-disc cases. So it has like separate front cover, back cover art, and stuff like that. But I still want the manual, so I didn't pick that up. And there were a couple other Resident Evil games on other platforms I saw at the store that I almost got, but passed up on, like the PS4 versions of Resident Evil 4 and Code Veronica X. I do want to get those at some point. I used to have them, because I used to have that Resident Evil Trilogy pack where it was Resident Evil 4, Code Veronica X, and I think Outbreak as well. So I used to have that, traded in years ago, because I wasn't enjoying them at the time, and I wasn't considering myself a collector at the time, so I wasn't like, oh, I need to hold on to all the games even if I'm not enjoying them. But that's not the case anymore. Anyways, another one that I picked up, and I got purely... I already have this game, but I have it I picked it up purely because this is the Black Label version, and I have the Greatest Hits Green Label version. Now you can tell from the games I've already talked about here, I don't mind having the Green Label versions, but this is my all-time favorite franchise, and I would much rather have both, or at least the original Black Label versions. Eventually, I'm going to want to replace all of my like Greatest Hits games with Black Label versions, and then have just like a separate collection just for the Greatest Hits stuff. Anyways, this is not Resident Evil, Final Fantasy VIII. So this is the full Black Label version with the characters on character faces on the discs, which the Green Label version doesn't have those on the discs. Also, this has the mini walkthrough booklet as well, which walks you through the most of the first disc, I think, or at least the opening segments of the game and stuff like that. How far does this actually go? There's also like a whole bunch of like ad stuff in here for various Square games. So it goes up to fighting Ifrit in the cavern. So it's like literally the first like half hour of the game. But still glad to have that added to the collection, stuff like that. Like I said, I want to get all the Black Label Final Fantasy games if I can. So, also this is a little bit tough here. For some reason, it doesn't necessarily always want to close correctly. So, I'll have to fiddle around with that. Anyways, oh, and I forgot to pull the last sticker off. Anyways, last one is Dragon Warrior 7. So this is... Yeah, you can see it cost me $70 for this. I don't know if that's a good market value or not. I haven't looked it up. The store I got this from sells a lot of retro games. Sometimes they're usually around market value. Sometimes they're a little high if the market goes down. Let me check this real quick. Dragon Warrior 7. So, yeah. So, complete price, $70. So yeah, that's market value. That's fair market value right now. So completely fine with that, especially because it has the manual and everything. I'm not a huge Dragon Warrior fan. Like I said, I'm much more of a Final Fantasy fan. Let me see if I can't peel the sticker off. I don't want that staying on there if I can help it. But I have been getting more into Dragon Quest since the HD2 remake of Dragon Quest 3 came out. I played through that. I really enjoyed it, although I did have to drop it down to easy to beat it because I didn't want to go through the hassle of all the grinding and stuff. And I do have Dragon Warrior 1 and 2 HD 2D on pre-order coming out at the end of this month, so I'm planning on playing through those. And so, yeah, this is, the PS1 version of Dragon Quest 7, still titled Dragon Warrior, even though 5 and 6 got skipped over in the West. We never got those in the West until they remade them on the DS. But rather than go through the hassle of like renaming this Dragon Warrior 5 and going through the whole confusion that Squaresoft did with Final Fantasy when they finally jumped from Final Fantasy 3 on the Super Nintendo to Final Fantasy 7 on the PS1, and had fans go, well, wait a second, what happened to 4 through 6? And had to explain the whole thing. Well, you already got 4 and 6. You were actually missing 2, 3, and 5 and stuff like that. So Enix decided, you know what, we're going to title it Dragon Warrior 7 because it's the 7th game in the franchise, but we're still going to stick with the Dragon Warrior name because that's what we've been going through for the first 4 games here in the West. And it wasn't until Dragon Quest VIII on the PS2 that they fully switched over to the Dragon Quest name, which is what it was called in Japan all the way from the beginning. I don't know why they did Dragon Warrior here instead. I'd have to look into that. I don't know. But still, definitely glad to have this. I do know they're doing a remake, a full remake. Dragon Quest 7 Reimagined supposed to be coming out sometime this next year. I'm definitely interested in playing that. And I also know that this got a port over to the 3DS as well. So I want to pick that up at some point as well. This was an interesting period in Square and Enix's history. Because this game, Squaresoft was mostly doing pre-rendered backgrounds but 3D models, and they would occasionally flip it for a few of their games. Dragon Quest 7 was, like I said, it was flipped, where it was still 2D sprites, but it was like fully 3D environments, and Squaresoft did that for a couple games like Xenogears as well. It was kind of the opposite. So for Dragon Quest here. So definitely interested in checking this out at some point. I don't know when I'm going to get around to playing this. Probably not until the remake comes out, but I'm definitely glad to have the original added to my collection. So those are like the rapid fire. The last 3 games here I have more to talk about because these are all new releases. And we're going to start off with one of them that probably one I have the least to talk about. It's a new release, but it's also a remake, and it's one I'm going to end up having to double dip on at some point in the near future, just because it's Final Fantasy, and that is Final Fantasy Tactics: The Ivalice Chronicles. So this is the full remake, 1-to-1 remake of the original Final Fantasy Tactics way back from the PS1, which I already have, but of course I have the Green Label version. And so this includes voice acting. I'm enjoying it so far. I never got too far into the original Tactics or War of the Lions, which was the enhanced remake, the remaster on the PSP, which I also have, which I think is the Red Label Greatest Hits version. So I need to get a non-Greatest Hits version of that at some point. I never got too far into those just because this game is so difficult, and I need to really sit down and give it some time to sit down and play this game and so on. I'm really enjoying it. The voice acting is really well done. That's helping me drive through. Though, of course, if you want to play a more classic version of this game, that's included with classic visuals from the PS1, along with the War of the Lions translation. There's no... They really should have done 3 versions of this. The original classic with the original translation, a remastered War of the Lions, and then the new remade version with the voice acting and stuff like that. Still, the fact that you have the classic version where it's kind of an amalgamation of the original plus War of the Lions and the full, the Ivalice Chronicles remake. Definitely glad to have that. So this is, for those that aren't aware, Final Fantasy Tactics is a turn-based strategy RPG set in the same world as Final Fantasy XII. In fact, Final Fantasy XII was the first mainline game to ever go back to a previously established world, although it still had never been seen in the main series. That said, there are quite a bit of differences in the world of Ivalice as presented in Tactics versus Ivalice from Final Fantasy XII, which makes sense when you realize that Final Fantasy XII is set 1,200 years, 1,200 years before Final Fantasy Tactics. So Final Fantasy XII is set in an era of high magic, high technology, where they have magic-fueled machines and robots and airships and stuff like that, multiple races and stuff like that. Whereas by the time of Tactics, magic is much, much more subdued. Most of the races are pretty much extinct except for humans and stuff like that. And by this point, Ivalice is no longer the term for the entire world, but is an entire a single country, which encompasses a large portion of the world. Back in the Final Fantasy XII era, Ivalice was the entire world and stuff like that. So again, like I said, there's 1,200 years difference. And then Vagrant Story, which is not a Final Fantasy game, it's not under the Final Fantasy umbrella at all, is also set in Ivalice, 300 or 400 years after Final Fantasy Tactics, I think. I'm not entirely sure. But it also takes place in a separate area of the world as well from Tactics and from Final Fantasy XII, which is, again, not just separated in terms of time from Tactics, but also geography. It's this huge thing. So, yeah. Definitely glad to add this to my collection. Definitely looking to playing more of this. However, the game that is consuming my time most right now is Ghost of Yotei. And I only try to do 1 game per platform at a time. So that's why I had to kind of give up Final Fantasy Tactics for a bit, because Ghost of Yotei, I really enjoyed Tsushima. when that came out, and so I've really been enjoying Yote as well. So this takes place. Ghost of Tsushima took place on Tsushima Island, which is kind of the large-ish island of the smaller islands. It's the largest of like the smaller islands in the whole Japanese archipelago. It's not like one of the main two. It's not the biggest or the second biggest, but it's like just north of the southern tip of the main island. Yote is centered around the mountain of Yote, which is like the second most famous island in Japan. The most famous would be Mount Fuji. Yote is kind of more well known because it's a kind of a standalone mountain. It's not like part of a mountain range. It's kind of like a lonely mountain. It's also kind of the centerpiece of Ezo, I think, is the second largest island of Japan. It's that one that's like up towards the top. It's like where I think it's it's either the Hoenn or Sinnoh region in Pokemon. I can't remember which, but it was like Gen 3 or 4. I don't remember. Is there a map here of Gen 3? Do I have a map in here at all? I don't think so. I was going to say, because I have Pokemon Diamond, which is Gen 3. Gen 4. Gen 4. I completely forgot about Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald for a second. So I don't remember. It's like either Hoenn or Sinnoh. I don't know. But either way, definitely enjoying this. It's a big, expansive open world. You're doing like all these, typical open world things, but it's quite a bit of fun. And I'm really enjoying it. So I'm definitely going to be playing this like for the rest of the month, probably. And then the last game to talk about is the big scary game release for this month, and that was Silent Hill F. I'm a huge Silent Hill fan. Really enjoyed most of the games in the franchise, and I enjoyed this one as well. I'm a little disappointed that there's like no connections back to Silent Hill proper. Like there's no real reason to call it Silent Hill other than the fact that it's a horror game set in a town covered in mist, and you travel to like an other world a couple times. Other than that, there's like nothing really like Silent Hill about this, other than, they really nailed the atmosphere. I wouldn't say it's like a very scary game, I don't think, but it's very like creepy and with like a very moody and oppressive atmosphere. Really enjoyed it. It takes it back to Japan in the 1960s. So, it's not the first Silent Hill game not to actually take place mostly in Silent Hill. It's just a little surprising to me that we don't go back at all, and there's not really much connection. There's a little bit of a connection if you read between the lines a bit, because the one of the main consumable healing items are these red capsules, and it's tied to like there's a local plant that can also have like hallucinogenic effects. So you got this whole thing going through the game of is all of this really happening, or is it all just a drug fueled hallucination and stuff like that? And so that kind of again, I think those red capsules kind of play back into like the red elixir medicine from the original Silent Hill and stuff like that. So again, I really enjoyed this game, except the ending kind of soured it for me. The standard ending for this game, I don't want to get into spoiler territory, but the standard ending for this game was very unsatisfying, and it kind of left more questions open than it answered. And I looked up the other endings online, and so you get the standard ending when you play through the first time. Then, if you want the other endings, you have to play through it a second time to get either the good or the bad ending. Neither of which sounded that appealing to me or were that much more satisfying than the standard ending. And then, once you've gotten one of those, you have to play through the game a third time to get the true ending, which is the one that is actually, based on what I've read, seems like actually satisfying. And I don't like the fact that you have to play through the game 3 times to do that. That to me is stupid. Like, I understand, okay, you want people to get that standard ending. You want to have these extra endings to unlock it for replay value and stuff like that. But to me, you should be able to get any of the endings except maybe the joke ending on the first playthrough. Silent Hill 2, the way that's how they did that, back for the original PS2 version of Silent Hill 2 was like, there were like 3 different endings you could get based on your actions in the game from the very first playthrough, all of which could be considered like canon endings. and were pretty much satisfying. And then you had to play through it a second time if you wanted the joke ending and stuff like that. But still, glad to play this. Still really enjoyed it. Glad to add this to my collection. I hope that they do more Silent Hill games in the future. I know Bloober Team, who did the Silent Hill 2 remake last year, I know they're supposed to be working on a Silent Hill 1 remake, which is really good because that game right now is stuck on the PS1. Like, the only ways to play it is on an original PS1 or a PS2 through backwards compatibility or a PS3 through backwards compatibility, or download it from PSN onto PS3, PSP, or PS Vita. It's stuck on those platforms, which are all dead platforms pretty much at this point. So it's not on a modern platform. Like, I would love to even just see the original Silent Hill pop up on PS4, or even just as a PS5 exclusive, as a PS1 classic with like HD camera and stuff like that. Because I do really enjoy that game, and it's one of the few that I enjoy. Well, I don't necessarily enjoy, but it's one of the few I can actually handle tank controls. Like, I doubt I will actually probably play through Resident Evil Director's Cut. I'm glad to add it to my collection, but I doubt I'll probably play through this because I have the RE1 remake on multiple platforms, and on the more recent ones at least, when they remastered it, it includes camera-based character control rather than traditional tank controls, which do not fit with fixed cameras to me, because there's always a mishmash in my brain based on what buttons are directing the character which direction and stuff like that. I could potentially get used to it, but to me, tank controls work best when you have a camera that is fixed behind the character, like in Tomb Raider, rather than a fixed camera, that's like way up here, and like you're pressing up on the D-pad, but your character's moving down towards the bottom of the screen. Anyways, that is it. Excuse me. That is it for this gaming pickups video. Let me get like the huge stack of games here. And now I have to figure out how I'm going to get these all on my shelves. I'm not fully running out of space yet. I have room for them. It's just I have to get a little bit more creative and figure out how I'm going to fit everything on here. Because things just don't really look that well right now. Like, you can see kind of with my PS2 games, the way things are fitting right now. Like, I have a full row of PS2 games, but I also have some PS2 games up here, some down here, and it's not like a full segment of either one. And that's just because that's all I could fit right now. So I have to, especially with all these PS1 games I'm adding, I'm going to have to rejigger a few things and so on before I need to add another like full tower, which will either go on the wall over here, on this wall over here, or I'm going to have to like rearrange my entire living room and deal with like not having the blinds open in the mornings to try to protect them from sun damage. Because the other option is putting two of these media towers on this wall over in this direction, and there's a window right beside it that the sun shines in directly in the morning. I already have sun damage on a few game spines, because when I first moved into this apartment, that's where I had my collection at the time, which was, again, a lot smaller back then. I only had like 200 or 300 games, not the 1,200 I have now, almost 1,300, which, so getting into the reason why this might be the last gaming pickups video for a while, possibly even entirely. I do have a couple games coming tomorrow. They're supposed to be delivered tomorrow, and I do have more games I'm getting throughout the year, the rest of the year, mostly new releases and stuff like that. But with this stack of games now, I am at 1,251 physical games. My goal for the year was 1,250, so I have met that goal. I am now surpassing it. I do have a number in mind for my next milestone, which I would hope it would be the end of next year. Although it's very ambitious, I'll just go ahead and state it right now, is getting up to a total of 1,500. So that means getting another 250 games from the end of this year through the end of next year. Very ambitious. It's going to require an average of like 20 games a month. So I might still be doing gaming pickups videos if I do it like that. However, the biggest reason why I might be stopping with those entirely is there is another large project I have on the horizon I would like to work on. It's a video project. I'll go ahead and say that now. I don't want to say too much about it other than the fact that it's something I've been trying to do for the last 4 or 5 years, maybe even longer. and have never gotten the first one fully done, and I really want to give it a shot this time, but I don't want to make any promises about something that might not happen, so that's why I don't want to get into too many details and stuff like that. However, if I am able to make this happen, it's going to be a marked shift for this channel, and you will eventually be seeing a lot of my old content disappearing from the channel, a lot of old Let's Plays and stuff. I'm probably going to leave up the Minecraft stuff indefinitely. I might just unlist them. Like, you'll be able to access them through playlists and stuff like that. But other than that, Let's Plays will probably be disappearing entirely at some point. I'm probably not going to be doing any more in the future if this pans out and stuff like that. So anyways, like I said, I don't want to say too much just in case this doesn't happen. I would love for it to happen, but it's going to require a lot of work on my part. And the biggest reason why I have not been able to do this these last 5 to 8 years that I wanted to do this is because it requires a fair amount of effort on my part, and I just haven't had the time or energy to do that a lot in the last few years. But I really want to give it a shot. So until that is more coming to fruition, that's all I'm going to say for now. So until next time, I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching. Please remember to comment, rate, and subscribe.